Rain tapped softly against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the private maternity clinic overlooking Lake Como. Lucia DeSantis sat alone in the consultation room, her trembling fingers clutching the first ultrasound photograph of her baby. Tears slipped down her cheeks, happy tears, the kind she had dreamed of shedding since the day she married Alessio Brancati. A tiny heartbeat. A miracle growing inside her. Her phone buzzed against the polished mahogany table. She glanced down. An anonymous number. A photograph loaded slowly onto the screen. Her husband, one of Italy's most feared mafia bosses, standing dangerously close to her own sister. His jacket draped around Valentina's shoulders. Their faces inches apart. Another message appeared beneath it. Congratulations. While you're carrying his child, she's carrying his attention. The ultrasound slipped from her trembling hands. It floated to the marble floor like a falling leaf. Down the hallway, a nurse paused at the doorway. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Lucia couldn't answer. Because in one heartbreaking moment, everything she believed about her marriage began to fall apart. 6 months earlier, Lucia had believed she was the luckiest woman in Italy. The spring air had carried the scent of orange blossoms through the open terrace doors of the Brancati estate as she watched her husband sign documents in his private study. Alessio sat behind his mahogany desk, his broad shoulders relaxed, his steel-gray eyes focused on the papers before him. The morning light caught the ink on his neck, Italian script curving just above his collar. La verità trova sempre la luce. The truth always finds the light. She had traced those words with her fingertips on their wedding night, asking what they meant to him. He had kissed her forehead and whispered, a reminder that no matter how dark things become, honesty will always guide us home. Now, watching him work, she felt that familiar warmth spread through her chest. His sleeves were rolled to his elbows, revealing the crowned Roman lion inked across his right forearm, a symbol of the leadership he carried with such quiet strength. On his left forearm, an Italian cathedral surrounded by olive branches spoke of faith and family. His knuckles bore the words she had come to love. Honor e famiglia. Honor and family. Everything about Alessio Brancati spoke of power carefully controlled. Of danger tempered by devotion. "You're staring," he said without looking up. Lucia smiled. "I'm admiring." He lifted his gaze then, and the corner of his mouth curved into something rare. A genuine smile meant only for her. "Come here." She crossed the study and perched on the edge of his desk, her elegant cream dress pooling around her. His hand found her waist, pulling her closer. "I have meetings in Milan this afternoon," he said. "But I want you to stay here. Rest." "I'm not fragile, Alessio." "No." His thumb traced circles against her hip. "You're carrying something precious. Both of you need peace." She hadn't told him yet. The pregnancy test sat hidden in her vanity drawer, waiting for the perfect moment. But somehow, looking into his steel-gray eyes, she wondered if he already knew. The Brancati estate sprawled across 20 acres of Lombardy countryside, its Renaissance architecture preserved through generations of careful attention. Stone pathways wound through manicured gardens where fountains whispered and roses climbed ancient walls. Inside, marble floors gleamed beneath crystal chandeliers, and family portraits lined corridors that had witnessed centuries of power, love, and loss. Lucia had grown up in modest circumstances. Her father had been a respected but unremarkable accountant in Florence. Her mother had taught piano lessons from their cramped apartment. Meeting Alessio Brancati had felt like stepping into another world entirely. He had attended a charity gala where Lucia worked as an event coordinator, a job she had taken after completing her business degree, hoping to build something meaningful with her own hands. She remembered the moment their eyes met across that crowded ballroom. He had stood apart from the other guests, his height commanding attention, his tailored black suit immaculate. But it was his stillness that had captivated her. In a room full of people desperate to be noticed, Alessio Brancati seemed entirely comfortable being invisible. When he finally approached her, his voice had been low and measured. "You organized this evening." It wasn't a question. "I did." The string quartet was an excellent choice. Vivaldi suits the architecture. She had blinked, surprised. "You noticed the music?" "I notice everything." And then he had smiled, just barely, and something in Lucia's chest had shifted permanently. Their courtship had been slow by design. Alessio had insisted on propriety, on earning her trust before asking for her heart. He had sent flowers without cards, forcing her to discover their sender through careful investigation. He had appeared at her favorite cafe with books he thought she might enjoy. He had listened when she spoke about her dreams, her fears, her complicated relationship with her younger sister. By the time he proposed, Lucia had understood what she was marrying into. The danger. The power. The enemies who would always lurk in shadows. But she had also understood the man beneath the reputation. The one who read poetry in his private moments. The one who visited his mother's grave every Sunday morning. The one who whispered promises against her hair in the darkness before dawn. She had chosen him with open eyes. And she had never regretted it. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the terrace where Lucia sat with her mother-in-law, Luciana Brancati. At 69, Luciana carried herself with the elegance of a woman who had weathered storms most people couldn't imagine. Her silver hair was swept into a graceful chignon, her black dress simple but impeccable. "You seem distracted today, Cara," Luciana observed, setting down her espresso cup. Lucia hesitated. She wanted to share her secret, the pregnancy that filled her with such overwhelming joy, but something held her back. "I'm just tired," she said. "The foundation work has been demanding." Luciana studied her with knowing eyes. "My son works you too hard." "Alessio doesn't work me at all. The foundation was my idea. And he supports it completely." Luciana smiled. "That's how I know he truly loves you. My son has never been comfortable sharing his world with anyone. Until you. The foundation, supporting women and children affected by organized crime, had been Lucia's passion project since joining the Brancati family. Alessio had funded it without hesitation, had connected her with legitimate business contacts, had quietly ensured her safety as she traveled to shelters and community centers across Italy. She had never asked him to change who he was. She had only asked him to balance darkness with light. And he had tried. God, how he had tried. "Luciana." Lucia began, then stopped. Her mother-in-law waited patiently. "Have you ever kept a secret from someone you loved? Not to hurt them but to protect them." Something flickered in Luciana's expression, a shadow of old pain. "Many times," she said quietly. "This family has survived on carefully chosen silences. But I have also learned that secrets have a way of growing teeth. They bite hardest when we least expect it." Lucia nodded slowly. She thought of the pregnancy test hidden in her vanity. She thought of the perfect moment she was waiting for. She didn't realize that in a family like this, perfect moments were luxuries that could be stolen without warning. Valentina DeSantis arrived at the estate 3 days later, her Louis Vuitton luggage carried by 2 staff members as she swept through the entrance hall. "Lucia." Her voice echoed off the marble, bright and theatrical. Lucia descended the grand staircase to embrace her younger sister, breathing in the familiar scent of expensive perfume. "I've missed you," Valentina said, pulling back to study Lucia's face. "Look different. Are you sleeping well?" "I'm fine. Just busy." "Too busy for your only sister?" Valentina's smile didn't quite reach her blue-green eyes. "I practically had to beg for an invitation. You know you're always welcome here." "Am I?" Valentina glanced around the entrance hall with barely concealed hunger. "Sometimes I wonder if you've forgotten where you came from living in all this." She gestured vaguely at the crystal chandeliers, the Renaissance paintings, the centuries of accumulated power. Lucia felt the familiar tension tighten her shoulders. This was how it always began with Valentina. The subtle digs. The implied accusations. The suggestion that Lucia had somehow betrayed their humble origins by finding happiness with a wealthy man. "I haven't forgotten anything," Lucia said carefully. "But this is my home now. I hope you can enjoy your visit." Valentina's expression softened, and for a moment she looked like the little girl Lucia remembered, the one who had crawled into her bed during thunderstorms, who had cried when their father forgot her birthday, who had clung to Lucia when their mother's illness worsened. "I'm sorry," Valentina said. "I didn't mean it like that. Things have been difficult lately. The fashion line isn't performing well and Marco ended things, and I needed to see someone who actually cares about me." Lucia's heart softened despite her caution. "You can stay as long as you need." "Really?" "Of course. We're family." Valentina hugged her again, tighter this time. Thank you, Lucia. You have no idea how much that means to me. Over her sister's shoulder, Lucia caught movement in the corridor. Alessio stood watching, his expression unreadable. His steel-gray eyes moved from Lucia to Valentina and back again. He nodded once, a silent acknowledgement, then disappeared into the shadows. Later that evening, in the privacy of their bedroom, Lucia would ask him what he thought of her sister's sudden visit. I think, Alessio said slowly, his hands working the buttons of his shirt to reveal the inked cathedral on his forearm, that people rarely travel this far without a destination in mind. You don't trust her. I don't trust anyone who looks at what's yours and calculates what it would take to claim it. Lucia frowned. She's my sister, Alessio. She would never. Perhaps. He crossed the room to cup her face in his hands, his knuckles bearing their permanent oath of honor and family. But promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you won't share anything sensitive. What could I possibly share that would matter? His thumbs traced her cheekbones. You, Lucia. You matter. Everything about you matters. And I will protect you from anyone who tries to take advantage of that, even those who share your blood. She wanted to argue. She wanted to defend the sister she had practically raised after their mother's death. But something in Alessio's voice, a careful restraint that suggested deeper knowledge, made her hesitate. I'll be careful, she whispered. He kissed her forehead. That's all I ask. 2 weeks into Valentina's visit, Lucia finally found the perfect moment to share her secret. She had arranged a private dinner on the terrace, just she and Alessio, with candles flickering against the twilight and the distant shimmer of Lake Como visible beyond the garden walls. He arrived late, his suit jacket draped over his arm, his white shirt open at the collar to reveal the Italian script on his neck. I'm sorry, he said, kissing her cheek. The Milan situation required. I don't want to talk about Milan tonight. Something in her voice made him pause. He studied her face, those observant gray eyes missing nothing. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. She smiled, her heart racing. Everything is exactly right. She reached into her clutch and withdrew the ultrasound photograph. The first image of their child, obtained that morning at a private clinic while Valentina toured the gardens with Luciana. Lucia. His voice broke on her name. Alessio Brancati, one of Italy's most feared men, stood frozen as she pressed the photograph into his hands. She watched his face transform. The careful mask cracked. Wonder flooded his steel-gray eyes. His tattooed hands trembled. We're having a baby, she whispered. He dropped to his knees before her, pressing his forehead against her stomach, his broad shoulders shaking. Alessio. I don't deserve this, he rasped. I don't deserve any of this. Our child. This life. You deserve everything good in this world. He looked up at her and she saw tears glistening on his cheeks, tears he would never shed in front of anyone else. I will protect you both, he said, his voice rough with emotion. With everything I have. With everything I am. Nothing will ever hurt you. I swear it on my blood. She knelt beside him, cupping his face. I know you will. They stayed that way for a long moment, wrapped in each other, wrapped in the promise of their growing family. Neither of them noticed the shadow that detached from the garden wall and moved silently toward the house. Neither of them saw Valentina's face twisted with jealousy as she disappeared into the darkness. The first message arrived a week later. Lucia was reviewing foundation paperwork in her private sitting room when her phone buzzed with an unknown number. Your sister seems very comfortable at the estate. But she's not visiting for you. Lucia stared at the screen, her pulse quickening. She deleted the message without responding. But the unease lingered. That night she mentioned it casually to Alessio, expecting him to dismiss it as a prank. Instead his expression hardened. Show me your phone. I deleted it. From now on, don't delete anything. I need to see these messages. Alessio, it was probably just. Someone knows your number. Someone wanted to unsettle you. He gripped her shoulders gently, his gray eyes intense. This is how it begins. Small seeds of doubt carefully planted. Promise me you'll come to me with anything unusual. I promise. He pulled her close, pressing his lips to her hair. I won't let anyone near you. Not now. Not with our child growing inside you. She believed him. She trusted him completely. She had no way of knowing that the seeds had already been planted far deeper than either of them realized. 3 weeks before the photograph that would shatter her world, Lucia hosted a charity luncheon at the estate. Donors, socialites, and community leaders gathered in the grand ballroom where sunlight streamed through stained glass windows depicting scenes from Italian history. Lucia moved through the crowd with practiced grace, her pregnancy just beginning to show beneath her elegant emerald dress. Valentina stayed close to her side, playing the role of devoted sister. "You're glowing," a donor commented. "Marriage clearly agrees with you, Signora Brancati." "Thank you. I'm very fortunate." "And expecting your first child, I hear?" Lucia smiled, her hand moving unconsciously to her stomach. "We're thrilled." Across the room she caught Alessio's eye. He stood with Marcello Ferri, his right-hand man, their conversation clearly serious. Marcello was a year older than Alessio, his athletic build and scarred eyebrow suggesting a lifetime of protecting others. He glanced at Lucia with something like concern, then leaned closer to Alessio, speaking urgently. Alessio's expression remained controlled, but tension gathered in his shoulders. After the luncheon, when the guests had departed and the staff were clearing the ballroom, Lucia found her husband in his study. He stood at the window, his back to the door, his tattooed hands clasped behind him. "What were you and Marcello discussing?" she asked softly. He turned, his face carefully composed. "Business. Alessio. Nothing for you to worry about." He crossed the room and took her hands. "How are you feeling? Any morning sickness?" "Don't change the subject." "I'm not. Your health is always my primary concern. And my peace of mind. Does that concern you as well?" Something flickered in his eyes, guilt perhaps or fear. "More than you know." "Then tell me what's happening." He was quiet for a long moment, wrestling with something she couldn't see. Finally he said, "There are complications with a rival family. The Ferrantes. Old grudges resurfacing." "Nicodemo Ferrante?" Alessio's jaw tightened. "You know the name." "I've heard it mentioned. Luciana speaks of him sometimes. She says he's patient. Patient and calculating. He's been watching our organization for years, waiting for vulnerability." Alessio cupped her face. "But I've taken precautions. Increased security. Called in favors. The estate is safe. You are safe. And you?" "I'm always safe." It was a lie and they both knew it. Men like Alessio Brancati were never safe. But Lucia chose to believe him because the alternative was too terrifying to contemplate, especially now with their child growing inside her. "I love you," she whispered. He kissed her forehead, then her lips, then her barely visible stomach. "I love you both," he said. "More than my own life." Unknown to Lucia, meetings had been taking place in the shadows of Milan. Valentina arrived at a private club in the fashion district, her designer dress drawing admiring glances from the doorman. She had received an anonymous invitation 3 days earlier, a simple card with an address, a time and a message. "We have mutual interests. Let's discuss them." Inside the club she was escorted to a private room where a man waited. Nicodemo Ferrante rose as she entered, his salt and pepper hair immaculately styled, his emerald eyes sharp with intelligence. "Miss DeSantis. Thank you for coming." "I almost didn't," Valentina said, settling into the chair across from him. "But curiosity is a weakness of mine. Curiosity is a strength when properly directed." "And what exactly are you directing me toward, Signor Ferrante?" He smiled, a cold expression that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm told you have certain grievances with your sister's husband." Valentina stiffened. "I don't know what you mean." "Please." He waved dismissively. "Let's not waste time with denials. I have eyes everywhere. I know you've been watching the Brancati estate with hunger. I know your fashion line is failing. I know you've been passed over for everything your sister possesses. Wealth, status, a devoted husband, now a child on the way. What do you want?" "The same thing you want." Alessio Brancati brought low. Valentina's heart hammered, but she kept her expression neutral. "And why would I help you achieve that?" "Because when his empire crumbles, pieces will be available for those who helped make it happen." Nicodemo leaned forward. "I'm offering you everything you've dreamed of, Miss DeSantis. Influence. Resources. A seat at a very powerful table. In exchange for what?" information. And when the time comes, cooperation in ensuring your sister loses faith in her husband. You want me to destroy my sister's marriage. I want you to help her see the truth, that Alessio Brancati is not the devoted husband she believes him to be. Nicodemo smiled. The fact that this will also serve my purposes is merely convenient. Valentina thought of Lucia's glowing face at the charity luncheon. She thought of the ultrasound photograph she had glimpsed through the terrace window weeks ago. She thought of all the years she had watched her older sister receive everything: their parents' attention, academic success, a loving marriage, a beautiful home, and now a baby. Always Lucia. Never Valentina. What exactly do you need me to do? She asked. Nicodemo's smile widened. I thought you'd never ask. The first photograph was taken legitimately. Alessio did meet with Valentina in his study, 2 weeks before the maternity clinic incident. But the meeting was not what it would later appear to be. You wanted to see me? Valentina stood in the doorway, her expression carefully innocent. Alessio remained behind his desk, his steel-gray eyes cool. Close the door. She complied, settling into the chair across from him with practiced grace. I know what you're doing, he said flatly. I'm afraid I don't understand. You've been feeding information about this household to outside parties. Security schedules. My travel plans. Lucia's appointments. Valentina's composure flickered just barely. That's absurd. My people intercepted a communication 2 days ago. Your phone. Your voice. Describing the layout of the East Wing and the gaps in overnight surveillance. Silence stretched between them. Finally Valentina laughed. A brittle sound. So what now? You expose me to Lucia? Break her heart by proving her only sister is a traitor. No. The word surprised her. Alessio leaned forward, his knuckles pressing against the desk. Honor e famiglia stark against his skin. I'm giving you one chance to walk away. Leave the estate. And whatever arrangement you've made with Nicodemo Ferrante. Disappear for a while. Travel. Find a legitimate path forward. And if I refuse? Then I'll destroy you. His voice was calm, almost gentle. Not for my sake. For Lucia's. She loves you despite everything you've done to deserve otherwise. And I will not let you weaponize that love against her. Valentina stood slowly, her blue-green eyes hard. You think you can protect her forever? You think she won't eventually see the monster she married? I think, Alessio said quietly, that you've already made your choice. She turned toward the door, then paused. Can I at least say goodbye? Hug her one more time before I disappear into whatever exile you've planned. Alessio hesitated. It was his first mistake. Fine. But you leave by morning. Valentina nodded, her face expressionless. But inside, something cold and determined had taken root. She wasn't going to disappear quietly. She was going to burn everything to the ground on her way out. Outside the study window, hidden among the garden shadows, a camera clicked. Alessio standing close to Valentina. His hand on her shoulder, a gesture meant to guide her toward the door. Her face turned toward his, their profiles inches apart. Without context it looked like intimacy. Without context it looked like betrayal. The photographer, one of Nicodemo's men, reviewed the images with satisfaction and melted back into the darkness. Over the next 2 weeks Valentina did not leave. She feigned illness, claiming food poisoning, then the flu, then exhaustion from stress. Lucia, ever devoted, brought her soup and books and company. Alessio watched with growing unease but said nothing, partly because Lucia seemed genuinely happy to have her sister near, partly because he was consumed with countering the Ferrante threat. You need to tell your wife, Marcello said during a late-night meeting in Milan. About Valentina. About Nicodemo. About all of it. I will. After the situation is contained. And if it isn't contained in time? Alessio's jaw tightened. Then I'll face the consequences. The consequences won't fall on you alone. They'll fall on Lucia. On your child. Which is exactly why I need to handle this quietly. Alessio rolled down his sleeves, hiding his tattoos beneath crisp white fabric. If Lucia knows her sister has been compromised by our enemies, it will destroy her. She'll blame herself. She'll question every moment of their relationship. Better that than having her faith in you destroyed instead. Alessio turned to the window, watching the city lights blur in the rain. I'll tell her, he said finally. As soon as the baby arrives safely. As soon as Nicodemo's threat is neutralized. I'll explain everything. You're gambling with your marriage. I'm protecting my family. Marcelo shook his head but said nothing more. Some mistakes had to be made before their true cost became clear. The morning of the maternity clinic appointment, Lucia woke to an empty bed. Alessio had left a note on his pillow. Early meeting in Como. Marcelo will drive you to the clinic. I'll be thinking of you both every moment. I love you. She smiled at his handwriting, bold, decisive strokes that matched everything about him. Downstairs, Valentina waited at the breakfast table. Morning, she said cheerfully. I thought I'd keep you company today. Actually, I have a doctor's appointment. I know. I could come along. Keep you company in the waiting room. Something in Lucia wanted to say no. But the sister part of her, the part that remembered sharing a bedroom as children, braiding each other's hair, dreaming of their futures, overruled caution. That would be nice. Valentina smiled and for a moment she looked almost genuine. I'll get my coat. At the clinic, Lucia was escorted to the ultrasound room while Valentina stayed in the waiting area. The procedure was routine. The technician pointed out the baby's heartbeat, the tiny hands curled against the chest, the perfect curve of the spine. Everything looks wonderful, Signora Brancati. Your baby is healthy and developing beautifully. Lucia clutched the printed ultrasound photograph to her chest, tears of joy spilling down her cheeks. A miracle. Growing inside her. Proof of everything she and Alessio had built together. She couldn't wait to show him. She stepped into the hallway ready to collect Valentina and head home. Her phone buzzed. An anonymous number. She should have ignored it. She should have remembered Alessio's warning. But something, curiosity, premonition, fate, made her open the message. The photograph loaded slowly. Her husband standing close to her sister. His jacket draped around Valentina's shoulders. Their faces inches apart. Another message appeared beneath it. Congratulations. While you're carrying his child, she's carrying his attention. The ultrasound slipped from her trembling hands. It floated to the marble floor like a falling leaf. Rain tapped against the clinic windows. Lucia stood frozen in the corridor, her world collapsing around her. She heard footsteps behind her. Lucia. Valentina's voice. Concerned. Innocent. Devastating. You're crying, what happened? Is the baby? Don't. The word came out broken. Valentina stopped mid-step. Don't, what? Lucia turned slowly and something in her eyes made Valentina take a step back. I know, Lucia whispered. You know what? About you. And Alessio. Valentina's face arranged itself into perfect confusion, but not before Lucia caught the flicker of triumph beneath. Lucia, I don't understand. What are you? Get away from me. Please, let's talk about this. I said get away from me. A nurse rushed over. Signora, your blood pressure. You need to stay calm for the baby. Lucia shoved past her sister, past the nurse, past the concerned staff members. She needed air. He needed to think. She needed to understand how everything she loved had become a lie. Marcelo found her on a bench overlooking the lake, rain soaking through her dress. Signora Brancati. Did you know? Her voice was flat. Did? Marcelo crouched beside her, his scarred face creased with concern. Did I know what? About Alessio. And my sister. Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed immediately by confusion. Signora, there is nothing between Don Brancati and your sister. Nothing romantic. I would stake my life on it. Then explain this. She showed him the photograph. Marcelo studied it, his expression growing grave. This is not what it appears to be. It appears to be my husband holding my sister like she belongs to him. It appears that way by design. Marcelo met her eyes. Someone wants you to see betrayal where none exists. Why should I believe you? Because I've served Alessio Brancati for 20 years. I've seen him tempted by many women, beautiful, powerful, dangerous women. He has never strayed. Not once. And when you entered his life, Marcelo's voice softened. He became a different man. Better. Whole. He would die before betraying you. Then why does this photograph exist? Because your husband has made enemies who understand exactly where to strike. Marcelo stood. Come back to the estate. Let him explain. I can't face him right now. Then let me take you somewhere safe. Somewhere you can think. Lucia hesitated. Every instinct screamed to run. From Alessio, from the estate, from the life she thought she understood. But there was still the baby to consider. Still the truth to uncover. Fine, she whispered. Take me somewhere he can't find me. Marcello nodded gravely. I know a place. The safe house was a modest villa in the hills above Bellagio, owned by a family connected to the Brancati organization through decades of loyalty. Lucia was given a clean room, fresh clothes, and strict instructions to rest. But rest was impossible. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of her marriage. Had there been signs? Moments where Alessio's attention wandered? Times when his explanations seemed too convenient? She thought of his late nights in Milan. His whispered conversations with Marcello. The way his expression sometimes closed off, hiding thoughts she wasn't permitted to see. She had trusted him completely. And now that trust lay shattered on a clinic floor, next to the ultrasound of their baby. Hours passed. Night fell. A knock on her door startled her from restless sleep. Marcello stood in the hallway, his expression tense. He's here. Lucia's heart seized. Alessio. He tracked you through security channels. He's in the main house. Demanding to see you. I can't. He won't leave until you speak with him. She closed her eyes, gathering the fractured pieces of her strength. Fine. Bring him here. Minutes later, Alessio appeared in the doorway. He looked destroyed. His usually immaculate suit was rumpled, his black hair disheveled, his steel-gray eyes red-rimmed. Lucia. Don't come any closer. He stopped instantly, pain flickering across his features. Please. Let me explain. Explain what? That photograph? Your jacket around her shoulders? The way you were looking at her. It's not what you think. That's what guilty people always say. I'm not guilty of what you're imagining. He took a step forward despite her warning. Lucia, I love you. Only you. There has never been. Stop. The word cracked like a whip. Alessio fell silent. I believed you, Lucia whispered. When you told me our marriage was different. When you promised you would always be honest with me. I believed you because I thought I knew who you were. You do know who I am. I thought I did. But the man I married wouldn't let my sister leave his office wearing his jacket. Wouldn't stand that close to another woman. Wouldn't give anyone a reason to doubt his devotion. There's context you don't have. Then give me context. I can't. The words seemed to cost him everything. Not yet. Not until certain situations are resolved. So you're asking me to trust you blindly? After what I saw. I'm asking you to remember 10 years of marriage. 10 years where I have never given you reason to doubt me. Lucia laughed. A bitter, broken sound. 10 years means nothing if you can't be honest with me now. Some truths would put you in danger. More danger than losing my husband, my marriage, my faith in everything. Alessio crossed the room in 2 strides and caught her face in his hands. She should have pulled away. She should have screamed for Marcello. But when his gray eyes met hers, filled with desperation and love and terrible grief, she found herself frozen. I swear on our child's life, he said hoarsely. I have not betrayed you. I have not touched your sister. I have not broken any vow we made before God and our families. Then why does that photograph exist? Because someone wants to destroy us. And they're using Valentina to do it. Lucia's blood ran cold. What do you mean using her? Alessio's hands dropped. He stepped back, running tattooed fingers through his hair. I've said too much. I need to verify certain things before. Tell me. Lucia. Tell me or I walk out of this house and you never see me or this baby again. The threat hung between them like a blade. Alessio closed his eyes. When he opened them, something had shifted. A wall crumbling, secrets preparing to spill. Your sister, he said slowly, has been compromised by Nicodemo Ferrante. She's been feeding him information about our household, our security, our movements. She's been helping him plan an operation designed to bring down our entire organization. No. I confronted her 2 weeks ago. Gave her a chance to walk away. She refused. That's impossible. Valentina would never. She's been meeting with Ferrante's people for months. Exchanging intelligence for promises of money and power. And when confronting her didn't work, I began gathering evidence to neutralize the threat quietly, without destroying your relationship with her. Stop. That photograph you received? It was taken during our confrontation. My jacket was on her shoulders because she started crying, or pretending to cry, and I made the mistake of trying to comfort her before ordering her to leave. I said stop. Lucia shoved him away, her chest heaving. You expect me to believe my sister, my only family, is working with your enemies to destroy us? I expect you to let me prove it. Prove what? That everyone I love has been lying to me. That the only person lying to you is Valentina. Lucia pressed her hands to her stomach, feeling the baby flutter beneath her palms. Her child. Alessio's child. Caught in the middle of a war she hadn't known was being waged. I need time, she whispered. You can have all the time you need. But please stay somewhere safe. Let my people protect you until this is over. And where will you be? Ending this. His gray eyes hardened into steel. Whatever it takes. He turned toward the door, then paused. The ultrasound photograph, he said quietly. Do you still have it? Lucia's throat tightened. I dropped it. At the clinic. Something broken flickered across Alessio's face. I'll find it, he said. And I'll bring it back to you. Then he was gone. And Lucia was left alone with questions that multiplied faster than answers. The next 3 days existed in a state of suspended agony. Lucia remained at the safe house, guarded by Marcelo's most trusted men. She ate mechanically. She slept in fragments. She stared at her phone, waiting for messages that didn't come. Alessio had gone dark, consumed by whatever operation would supposedly prove Valentina's betrayal. But doubt gnawed at her. What if he was wrong? What if the photograph was exactly what it appeared to be, and his accusations against Valentina were merely a convenient distraction? What if she had spent a decade loving a man capable of the very betrayal she feared? On the 4th morning her phone finally buzzed. Not Alessio. Valentina. I know where you are. We need to talk. Meet me at the old olive grove, the one behind Nana's house. Just us. Please. Lucia stared at the message. Every logical instinct screamed trap. But beneath the logic something deeper ached. The little girl who had protected her baby sister. The young woman who had wiped Valentina's tears. The sister who refused to believe that bond could be completely severed. She grabbed her coat and slipped out the back in trance. The guards wouldn't notice until it was too late. The olive grove stood on the outskirts of a village where Lucia and Valentina had spent childhood summers visiting their grandmother. Twisted silver trees guarded paths worn smooth by generations of feet. Lucia found Valentina waiting at the edge of the grove, her blonde hair whipping in the cold wind. You came, Valentina said. I shouldn't have. But you did. Because somewhere beneath everything you still believe in us. In family. Lucia stopped several feet away, maintaining distance. Tell me it isn't true. Tell me you haven't been working with Nicodemo Ferrante. Valentina's expression flickered. Alessio told you. He said you've been feeding information to our enemies. Helping them plan an attack on our family. Our family. Valentina laughed bitterly. That's rich. When has this ever been our family? It's been Alessio's family. Alessio's power. Alessio's money. You just happen to be along for the ride. That's not fair. Nothing about my life has been fair, Lucia. You got the grades. The scholarships. The devoted husband. The beautiful estate. The baby. Valentina's voice cracked. I got table scraps and consolation prizes. I would have given you anything. I did give you everything I could. Everything except what mattered. Valentina stepped closer. You treated me like a project. A charity case. Someone to be pitted and managed. I loved you. You loved the idea of being a good big sister. The reality of me, the jealousy, the ambition, the hunger, that made you uncomfortable. Lucia shook her head, tears streaming down her face. Whatever you've done, it isn't too late. Come back with me. Tell Alessio's people what you know. Help us stop whatever Ferrante is planning. It's already too late. It doesn't have to be. Valentina smiled, a cold, unfamiliar expression. Oh, Lucia. Still so naive. Behind Lucia, footsteps crunched on dead leaves. She spun. 3 men emerged from the olive grove, their faces hard, their weapons drawn. What? I'm sorry, Valentina said, though her voice held no remorse. But I didn't come here to reconcile. I came here to deliver you. Deliver me to who? A fourth figure stepped from the shadows. Nicodemo Ferrante's emerald eyes gleamed in the pale winter light. To me, he said. Welcome, Signora Brancati. Your husband and I have much to discuss, and you're going to help facilitate that conversation. Lucia's hands flew to her stomach, protecting the child inside her. Please. I'm pregnant. Whatever you want from Alessio. What I want from Alessio is everything. And to get that, I need leverage. Nicodemo smiled. Fortunately, you've just volunteered. He nodded to his men. They moved forward. Lucia's last coherent thought before they seized her was of Alessio's face, anguished and desperate, as he promised to bring back her ultrasound photograph. Then darkness swallowed her. And somewhere in the distance she thought she heard Valentina laughing. Alessio's phone rang at 3:47 a.m. He had been awake, poring over surveillance footage that proved Valentina's communications with Ferrante operatives. The number was blocked. He answered anyway. Brancati. Don Brancati. Nicodemo's voice slithered through the speaker. I believe I have something that belongs to you. Alessio's blood turned to ice. If you've touched her, she's unharmed. For now. But the next few hours will determine whether that continues. What do you want? Meet me at the old Ferrante warehouse outside Milan. Midnight tomorrow. Come alone or she dies. Bring your men and she dies. Attempt any clever maneuvers and she dies. Nicodemo paused. And in case you're wondering, yes, I know about the baby. How touching. An heir to the Brancati Empire. It would be such a shame if neither of them survived the night. The line went dead. Alessio hurled his phone against the wall, watching it shatter. Marcello burst through the study door. I heard. Ferrante has Lucia. Marcello's face went pale. How? Her sister. The grove behind their grandmother's house. She walked right into a trap. What do we do? Alessio stood, his tattooed hands clenching into fists. The words on his knuckles caught the lamplight. Honor e famiglia. Honor and family. We do what we always do, Alessio said quietly. We protect our own. Whatever it takes. The midnight deadline gives us 20 hours to prepare. Alessio met Marcello's eyes, his expression carved from stone. I want our best people mobilized. Every favor called in. Every resource deployed. And if it's not enough? Alessio's voice dropped to something dangerous and raw. Then I'll burn Nicodemo Ferrante's entire world to ash before he touches a hair on my wife's head. Lucia woke in darkness. Her wrists ached, bound with rope against a cold metal chair. Her feet pressed against concrete. Somewhere in the distance, water dripped with maddening regularity. She's awake. A guard's voice followed by footsteps. Fluorescent lights flickered on, blinding her momentarily. When her vision cleared, she found herself in what appeared to be an abandoned warehouse. High ceilings. Rusted machinery. The smell of oil and decay. Valentina sat in a chair across the room watching. How could you? Lucia whispered. How could I what? Finally take something for myself. You sold me to our enemies. Your pregnant sister. I sold leverage. Valentina shrugged. That's what you've always been to Alessio. Leverage. A tool to legitimize his business dealings. A hostess for his parties. A vessel for his heir. You don't know anything about my marriage. I know he keeps secrets from you. I know he disappears for days without explanation. I know he treated me like a threat the moment I arrived at the estate. Because you were a threat. Because he saw what you refused to see. Valentina stood, approaching slowly. I've always wanted what you have, Lucia. And for years I pretended otherwise. But Nicodemo helped me understand. Pretending is weakness. Taking is strength. Nicodemo is using you. The moment you stop being useful. I'll cross that bridge when I reach it. A door clanged open. Nicodemo entered, flanked by guards. Touching sisterly reunion, he said. But we have business to attend to. He crouched before Lucia, studying her face. Your husband received my message. He has until midnight to appear alone and surrender control of his northern operations. He won't do that. Won't he? Nicodemo smiled. Alessio Brancati has built a reputation on ruthlessness. But I've watched him since you entered his life. He's changed. Developed vulnerabilities. His hand reached toward her stomach. Lucia jerked backward. Touch me and he'll kill you slowly. Perhaps. Nicodemo withdrew. But first he'll have to save you. And I suspect that priority will outweigh vengeance, at least long enough for me to get what I want. He stood and nodded to Valentina. Keep her calm. We wouldn't want any complications before the exchange. Then he was gone. And Lucia was left staring at the sister she no longer recognized. Hours passed like years. Lucia counted heartbeats. She traced patterns on the concrete floor with her eyes. She talked to the baby, silent words of comfort and apology. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I put us in danger. But your father will come. He'll find us. He always finds us. Valentina brought water around midday, holding the cup to Lucia's lips with unexpected gentleness. You don't have to do this, Lucia said. We can still walk away. There's no walking away from Nicodemo Ferrante. Alessio can protect you. Alessio wants to destroy me. He wanted to give you a chance. You chose not to take it. Valentina flinched, the first real emotion Lucia had seen since the olive grove. I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice. Easy for you to say. Valentina set the cup aside. You've never known what it feels like to be invisible. To watch someone else get everything while you scramble for crumbs. I thought we were family. We are family. That's the worst part. Valentina's voice cracked. I love you, Lucia. I've always loved you. But I also hate you. And I don't know which feeling is stronger anymore. Love, Lucia whispered. I have to believe it's love. Otherwise, none of this means anything. Valentina stared at her for a long moment. Then she stood abruptly and walked away. But Lucia caught the glimmer of tears before she turned. Midnight approached. Lucia heard preparations outside. Guards moving into position, vehicles arriving, the mechanical sounds of weapons being checked. Valentina paced the warehouse floor, her composure cracking. He's cutting it close, she muttered. He'll come. How can you be so sure? After everything. Lucia closed her eyes. Because that's who he is. Beneath the reputation. Beneath the danger. He's a man who keeps his promises. You still love him. I never stopped. Even after the photograph? Lucia opened her eyes. The photograph showed me a single moment out of context. My marriage is built on 10,000 moments, most of which have been filled with kindness, patience, and devotion. And if it turns out he was lying, if there really was something between us, then I'll deal with that truth when I face it. But I won't let fear destroy what we've built. Not anymore. Valentina stared at her with something like wonder. How do you do that? Hold on to faith when everything suggests you're wrong? Practice, Lucia said quietly. And stubbornness. A door burst open. Nicodemo swept in, his expression triumphant. He's here. Alone. Just as I demanded. Lucia's heart seized. Bless you. Bring her, Nicodemo ordered. Let's show Don Brancati exactly what's at stake. The warehouse's main floor had been cleared. Crates stacked along the walls. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Guards positioned at every exit. And there, in the center of the space, stood Alessio Brancati. He looked like he had walked through fire to reach this moment. His suit was wrinkled. His hair disheveled. Dried blood streaked his knuckles. Honor e famiglia barely visible beneath the crimson. But his gray eyes burned with controlled fury as Lucia was led into view. Lucia. Her name on his lips. A prayer, a promise, a plea. I'm here, she whispered. Nicodemo positioned himself between them, savoring the moment. Touching reunion. But we have business first. Release her. First, you sign over the northern operations. Banking access codes. Property deeds. Everything. I'll sign whatever you want. After she's safely in my car. That's not how negotiations work, Don Brancati. Then we're not negotiating. Alessio moved so fast the guards barely tracked it. One moment he stood empty-handed. The next, a gun appeared from inside his jacket, pressed against Nicodemo's temple. Release her, Alessio repeated. Or I paint this floor with your brains. Nicodemo's composure cracked. Kill him. But no one moved. Because beyond the warehouse doors, chaos had erupted. Gunfire. Shouting. The unmistakable sounds of a coordinated assault. Marcelo's voice crackled through the confusion. Buildings secured. All targets neutralized. Alessio smiled. A cold, dangerous expression. I didn't come alone, Nicodemo. I came with an army. And now you're going to answer for threatening my family. What happened next passed in a blur. Guards surrendering. Nicodemo restrained. Alessio rushing to Lucia's side, his tattooed hands gentle as they cut her bonds. Are you hurt? The baby. We're fine. Tears streamed down her face. We're both fine. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she might disappear if he let go. I'm sorry, he whispered against her hair. I should have told you everything from the start. I should have trusted you to handle the truth. We'll talk about that later. Promise me you'll let me explain. Promise me. I promise. Behind them, a scuffle broke out. Lucia turned to see Valentina trying to flee through a side door. Marcelo's men intercepted her. She fought wildly, screaming accusations and denials. When her eyes met Lucia's across the chaos, something shattered in their depths. Lucia. Take her somewhere secure, Lucia said quietly. We'll deal with her tomorrow. Valentina was dragged away, still calling her sister's name. And Lucia turned back to her husband. Take me home. Dawn was breaking over Lake Como when they arrived at the estate. Luciana met them in the entrance hall, her aged face streaked with tears. Thank God. Thank God you're safe. She embraced Lucia, then Alessio, her silver hair catching the first rays of sunlight. Rest, she ordered. Both of you. Whatever needs to be discussed can wait until you've recovered. But Lucia shook her head. We need to talk. Now. She looked at Alessio. I need to know everything. The truth. All of it. He nodded slowly. Then let's go somewhere private. They settled in the study where Valentina's betrayal had begun. Lucia sat in the leather chair usually reserved for Alessio. He stood by the window, the morning light illuminating the tattoos that marked his devotion. Start from the beginning, she said. And he did. He told her about intercepted communications revealing Valentina's connection to Ferrante. About the confrontation where he had given her a chance to walk away. About the photograph that had been deliberately staged to destroy Lucia's trust. About the assassination plot targeting the Brancati organization, and the specific threat against Lucia herself. Ferrante knew that killing you would break me, Alessio said quietly. He planned to use your death as leverage to force my surrender. And Valentina knew? She knew everything. She chose Ferrante anyway. Lucia pressed her hands to her stomach, processing the magnitude of her sister's betrayal. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Because I wanted to protect you from the truth. I thought if I handled it quietly, neutralized Valentina's access, countered Ferrante's operation, you would never have to know. You tried to protect me from my own family. I tried to protect you from pain. And instead you caused worse pain by keeping secrets. Alessio bowed his head. I know. I was wrong. Silence stretched between them. Finally Lucia spoke. My entire life I believed Valentina was someone I could trust. Someone who loved me despite our differences. She did love you. In her own way. A way that led to my kidnapping. Yes. Lucia stood slowly, crossing to where her husband stood. She reached up to touch his face, her fingers tracing the stubbled jaw she had kissed 1,000 times. If you ever keep something this important from me again. I won't. Promise me. He caught her hand, pressing his lips to her palm. I promise. On our child's life. On everything I am. No more secrets. She searched his eyes, those steel-gray depths that had captivated her across a crowded ballroom a decade ago. She found pain there. Guilt. Fear. But beneath it all she found truth. I believe you, she whispered. And for the first time since that devastating photograph appeared on her phone, she meant it. The next 2 weeks passed in fragile recovery. Lucia slept more than she had in months. Alessio rarely left her side, his protectiveness now openly expressed rather than hidden behind secretive operations. Luciana hovered like a benevolent guardian, ensuring both of them ate properly and rested adequately. And somewhere in a secure location Valentina awaited judgment. Lucia knew she would have to face her sister eventually. But first she needed to heal. First she needed to remember who she was before the betrayal shattered her certainty. On the 14th morning after her rescue, she woke to find Alessio sitting beside the bed, watching her sleep. "That's becoming a habit," she murmured. "I thought I had lost you." "You didn't. But I could have. If the assault had failed. If Marcello's team had been slower. But they weren't. We're here. We're safe." He reached for her hand, his tattooed knuckles gentle against her skin. "I need you to see something today." "What?" "Evidence. Documents. Proof of everything I told you about Valentina." Lucia's heart clenched. "I already believe you. I know. But belief isn't the same as understanding." He helped her sit up. "I need you to see exactly what your sister did, and who she did it with. So that when you eventually face her, you'll have all the information required to make whatever decision feels right." Lucia studied his face. "You're giving me the choice. The choice has always been yours. Sometimes I forget to respect that." She kissed him softly. "Then let's see the evidence." The documents spread across Alessio's desk told a story of systematic betrayal. Communications between Valentina and Ferrante operatives dating back 18 months. Financial transfers to offshore accounts. Detailed reports on estate security, family schedules, Lucia's medical appointments. And worst of all, transcripts of conversations where Valentina discussed the best ways to psychologically destabilize her own sister. She's pregnant now. Vulnerable. If we can make her believe Alessio is unfaithful, she'll crumble. A photograph would be perfect. Something ambiguous enough to be devastating but deniable if questioned. I'll find a way to get close to him. Create an opportunity for the camera. Lucia read the words 3 times before their full impact registered. Her baby fluttered inside her, a reminder of everything she still had to protect. "I need to see her," she said finally. Alessio's expression grew guarded. "Are you sure that's wise? I need to look her in the eye and understand how this happened. Understanding might not bring peace. Maybe not. But it will bring closure." He was quiet for a long moment. "I'll arrange it. But I'm coming with you. I wouldn't have it any other way." They found Valentina in a secure room at a Brancati-controlled facility outside Como. She looked diminished somehow, her designer clothes replaced by simple gray garments, her immaculate makeup washed away, her blue-green eyes hollow. When Lucia entered, Valentina flinched. "You came. I need answers. I've already told Alessio's people everything. I'm not asking what you told them. I'm asking you, my sister, to explain how we got here." Silence stretched. Then Valentina's composure cracked. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I was jealous," she whispered. "Since we were children. You were always better. Smarter. Kinder. Everyone loved you. I loved you too. I know. That made it worse." Valentina's voice broke. "Because I wanted to hate you but I couldn't. So I hated myself instead. And when Ferrante offered me a chance to be someone powerful, someone who mattered, I took it without thinking about the cost. The cost was my life. Our baby's life. I know. Was it worth it?" Valentina met her eyes for the first time. "No. Nothing was worth losing you." Lucia stepped closer, her heart torn between grief and something that stubbornly refused to abandon love. "What happens to you now? Whatever Alessio decides. What do you want to happen?" Valentina laughed. A broken sound. "I want to go back in time and make different choices. I want to be the sister you deserved. I want." She trailed off, shaking her head. "I want you to forgive me. Even though I don't deserve it." Lucia was quiet for a long moment. Then she said softly, "I can't forgive what you did. Not yet. Maybe not ever." Hope flickered and died in Valentina's eyes. "But," Lucia continued, "I can remember the sister who crawled into my bed during thunderstorms. The little girl who needed protection. The person I loved before all of this. What does that mean?" "It means I won't advocate for your destruction. But I also can't have you in my life." Lucia's voice steadied. "Alessio will arrange for your relocation. A fresh start somewhere far from Italy. You'll have resources but you'll have to build everything else yourself. And if I refuse? Then you'll face the full consequences of your actions under Brancati family law." Valentina shuddered at the implication. I'll go. Good. Lucia turned toward the door where Alessio waited. She paused at the threshold. Goodbye, Valentina. Her sister's response came as a whisper. Goodbye, Lucia. I'm sorry. For everything. Lucia walked out without looking back. 3 weeks later, Valentina DeSantis boarded a private plane to Buenos Aires, carrying a single suitcase and the fractured remains of a sisterly bond that might never fully heal. Lucia watched the aircraft disappear into the clouds from the estate's highest terrace. Alessio stood beside her, his arm around her shoulders. Are you all right? No. She leaned into him. But I will be. The baby kicked against her palm, strong and insistent. She smiled through her tears. This little one certainly has opinions. Alessio's hand joined hers on the swell of her stomach. Just like their mother. And their father. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the sky shift from blue to gold as evening approached. I have something for you, Alessio said finally. He reached into his jacket and withdrew a familiar photograph, creased and slightly water-damaged but unmistakable. The ultrasound. Their baby's first image. You found it, Lucia breathed. I promised I would bring it back. She clutched the photograph to her chest, tears streaming freely. Thank you. I would have searched every clinic in Italy. I know. She turned to face him fully, memorizing the lines of his face. The strong jaw, the steel-gray eyes, the ink on his neck that promised truth would always find its light. I love you, Alessio Brancati. I love you more than words can express. He cupped her face in his hands. And I will spend the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of your trust. You already have. He kissed her then, soft and reverent, filled with promises renewed. And beneath their joined hands their baby kicked once more. As if to say we're going to be okay. 2 months later, in the quiet hours before dawn, Lucia's water broke. The birth that followed was long and complicated. The baby, a girl, entered the world fighting, her lungs announcing her presence with a cry that echoed through the private maternity suite. Alessio held his daughter for the first time with hands that had ended countless lives but now trembled with pure tenderness. She's perfect, he whispered. Lucia, exhausted but radiant, reached for them both. She needs a name. They had discussed dozens of options over the past months but had never settled on one that felt right. Now, looking at their daughter's tiny face, the answer seemed obvious. Elena, Lucia said softly. It means light. The light that finds us even in the darkest moments. Alessio traced a finger over Elena's downy hair. La verità trova sempre la luce. The truth always finds the light. The truth always finds the light, Lucia repeated. He leaned down to kiss his daughter's forehead. Welcome to the world, Elena Brancati. You are so very loved. 1 year later, on a perfect summer evening, they renewed their vows beside Lake Como. Not a grand ceremony. Just family and close friends gathered beneath string lights in the garden where Alessio had first dreamed of a future with the woman who would become his everything. Elena slept peacefully in Luciana's arms, her dark hair already showing hints of her father's curl. Marcello stood as witness, his scarred face creased with rare emotion. And as the sun set over the water, casting everything in shades of gold and rose, Lucia and Alessio faced each other once more. I take you as my partner, Lucia said, her voice steady. In truth and in trust. In joy and in sorrow. Through every secret revealed and every storm weathered. Now and always. Alessio's gray eyes gleamed. I take you as my heart, he replied. The reason for everything I've built and everything I've become. I promise to honor you with honesty. To protect you with devotion. To love you without condition. Now and always. They exchanged rings. Simple bands that matched the originals, and sealed their renewed promises with a kiss. And somewhere in the watching crowd, Marcello leaned toward Luciana. Do you think they'll finally have some peace now? Luciana smiled, bouncing Elena gently in her arms. This family. She laughed softly. Peace is always temporary. But love. Love endures. The final image that lingered as stars emerged above Lake Como. A family standing together at the water's edge. A man with tattooed hands holding his sleeping daughter against his chest. A woman leaning into his shoulder, her face turned toward the fading light. And between them, in the space where fear and doubt had once lived, Nothing remained but trust earned through fire, forgiveness granted through grace, and love that had survived the greatest test of all. The truth had found its light. And they were home. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more stories of love, family, and second chances. And comment below, where in the world are you watching from tonight?